Is breaking all the rules. And now we on the move. From local to global, we got something to prove. We came from the bottom, now we at the tippy top. People, cause we all we got. It's a cold, cold world, but we keeping it hot. On the line, ain't no time to stop. Yes, so we having fun. Ain't no holding our tongue. Go get us on the team, yeah, we getting it done. And shout out to Travell, yeah, you number one. It started with a dream that turned into a vision. Educated new generations is our mission. Is to the streets, and we steady politicking. If you ain't about to change, mind your business.
Now wait again, minute, wait again, minute. Wave your hands with it. Now wait again, minute. Wave your hands with it. We top six like we all up on the gram with it. Now wait again, minute. Wave your hands with it. Now
Wait again, minute.
wave your hands with it. Now wait again, minute. Wave your hands with it. We top six like we all up on the gram with it.
Yo, what up? This your boy Super K from Super Sound Lounge, rocking with your favorite podcast, Wait Again a Minute, listed on all platforms, iTunes, Google Play, Tidal, Spotify. Y'all already know the vibes. Tune in.
Welcome to another episode of Wait Again Minute podcast. Today is Tuesday, April the 19th, 2022. Our episode tonight is Homecoming with Dr. Thema Bryant. Good afternoon, Dr. Bryant. How are you?
I am doing wonderful. Excited to be with you all and love your theme music.
Thank you. So, Ms. Go Getter, how has your day been thus far?
It's been good.
So, what did you do today?
I was at work.
Did you
I was
do
pretty busy.
Did you do any work?
Yes, I did. Yes, I
Okay,
did.
well, today is the night. We got to put that one in the books. If you did work today, we got to put that down in the books for sure.
Okay. How was your day today, Gail?
My day was good. My day was good. I did a little bit of work today. I'm
Okay.
not even gonna lie. We have a minister, so I'm not gonna sit here and do that at all. But Dr. Bryant, I wanted to thank you for accepting our invitation to come on Wait Again Minute podcast. You could have been anywhere else, but you're here, and we are thankful and as well as grateful that you are here, and we get to share a little bit of time together and see what's going on with homecoming.
Oh, well, thank
And
you
due
for
to
the
that, we know you.
invitation.
No problem.
No problem. No problem. And we know you wear many hats and you have many titles, and we do not dare miss one. We would like for you to tell our viewers and our listeners, introduce yourself, tell them all your titles and the many hats that you wear.
Certainly. Well, I am so grateful to be here. I'm a licensed psychologist, so I have a private practice in Los Angeles. I'm also a professor at Pepperdine University, where I teach in the graduate school for people who are getting their master's or doctorate degrees in psychology. I'm an ordained elder in the African Methodist Episcopal Church. And the end of last year, I was elected president-elect of the American Psychological Association. And like you two, I am a podcast host. And so the name of my podcast is Homecoming. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And
Yes, ma'am.
so
Yes, ma'am.
I have a heart for
So, yeah,
podcasters.
Oh,
Yes.
great. Well, we're glad
And
that you have a heart for
I think she
podcasters.
missed one. Dr. Brian, I think you missed one. Author?
Yes.
Several times over.
I am the author of Homecoming, Overcome Fear and Trauma to Reclaim Your Whole Authentic Self. It was released March 15th. It's available everywhere books are sold, and it's currently the #1 new release in clinical psychology. So I am excited about it.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But but before we get into homecoming, I have to let you know that when I read your bio, I said AME. I said my home church is AME. I came up AME.
Yes.
So I was like, okay.
That's
Okay, so
it.
we're connecting. I get it.
There we
I
are.
get it. I
I
get it.
love it. I
Yeah.
love it. AME. Good stuff.
That's
Mhm.
absolutely. Now, homecoming, the title
Mhm.
alone is very impactful. Like, how did we
Yeah.
get to
I
how did
love
we
it.
get there
Yeah, such
to
a
that
great
title?
question. Yeah. So when we experience a lot of stress and trauma, it disconnects us from ourselves because often we're in what I would call survival mode. We're just trying to get through the day. We're just trying to get through the week. Time is passing us by, but we are not really connected to our own needs, our body, our hearts, our spirits. And so as we heal, you come back to yourself. You know, sometimes you go through experiences where, you know, it can make you turn you upside down. And so to come home, right, is to get recentered, to get clear again, to remember who you are and what you're deserving of and that you're worthy. And that doesn't matter in terms of who else is around. It doesn't matter what job you're on or who you're living around, but being clear, no matter what anybody else is doing, like I'm good with me. That's a really a strong place of empowerment and healing.
Wow.
Oh, that's awesome.
I can't even say anything because I'm sitting here like, oh my God, like she knows my life. Like this it's and I'm sure others probably can relate and it resonates with them as well.
True.
Yeah.
Because we all have went through some type of some level of trauma.
That's
but yet
right.
we still don't deal with it. We just, you know, going about our day trying to get through life. How
Right.
important is it to really be authentic in order to deal with all of what we have going on?
Right. So I'm glad you raised that. One, the fact that all of us have had some experience, and oftentimes we have been raised to think like, just don't think about it, and as if that will solve it. And one of the things that I've discovered both personally and working with clients is staying busy is not really the solution. You know, you can be busy and not healed. You can keep distracting yourself, but that stuff is going to show up. It bleeds out. It shows up in how we relate to other people. It shows up in how we parent. It shows up in how we partner. It shows up in the ways we approach work, in the ways we even neglect ourselves. And so a big part of homecoming is telling yourself the truth, right? To come out of denial and say, like, I'm hurting, because a lot of times we'll say, I don't care. You know, that's the teenage thing. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to me. And it's like, no, you do care. You know, it did hurt. And so we have to acknowledge those wounds so that we can actually heal.
Okay, so how would one know that they are healed or not healed?
Yeah. So healing can be a continuous process, but what you want to pay attention to is what is guiding my decision making. Are my wounds running my life? Are my fears and insecurities making me live a small life or making me sabotage myself? Or am I making decisions from a place of clarity, of confidence, of security within myself? So there are some warning signs that we can pay attention to know when we're disconnected, when we need a homecoming. And so those are both our emotions and our actions. So in emotions, when we're in a place of like despair and we just don't enjoy anything anymore, when we are frustrated and easily irritated, then we're really still in our brokenness. When we're stuck in our rage. So all of us can have anger, and anger is a healthy emotion, but there are times in our lives when we can feel immobilized by it. Like, I'm so mad at something that happened 10 years ago that I can't move forward, you know, then I'm really stuck. Or when the anxiety is making us, you know, sabotage relationships or sabotage jobs. And I say, like, we're standing on our own wings. We're blocking ourselves because we're insecure. We can even mistreat friends because of insecurity. And so all of those, right, are examples of our wounds, like running our lives, versus when I'm at a place of healing, I feel more clear about myself, and that makes me less hungry for everybody else's approval and validation, right? I won't be so thirsty when I'm clear about who I am, right? You may desire companionship, but you're going to honor yourself even as you desire companionship, versus I so need someone to think I'm worthy or to think I'm beautiful or to think I'm enough that I will, you know, give them the kitchen sink just because they gave me half of a compliment. So, we want to really reflect on how am I living?
Wow. Okay.
Oh yeah.
One of our question our viewers are asking, what does the word healed mean?
Yes. So to heal is to feel a sense of wholeness, a sense of worthiness,
Mhm.
and a sense of clarity about who I am. Because when I'm in a broken place, I'm often defining myself based on how other people have treated me, right? So if a lot of people have mistreated me, that can really convince me that I'm unworthy, because I would say like, oh, well, if I was good enough, people would have treated me better. But as I heal, I
That's
get
true.
clarity that other people's actions don't define me, right? So even if it was your parent, right, whether
Mhm.
they abandoned you, abused you, neglected you, favored some other sibling over you, that fundamentally does not change the truth that you are worthy. Right? Even if you never received the good treatment, that you're worthy of love,
Right.
worthy of respect, right? Worthy of care, worthy of protection. And as I'm healing, I recognize the truth of that.
Right.
Right. And a lot of us don't realize, you mentioned when we are broken, a lot of us don't realize that we are broken because like you said earlier, we go through things and then you say, well, I don't care or forget
Mhm.
about that or whatever. So a lot of us don't realize that we're broken. We're just thinking like, okay, things happen, you move on, and then
Mhm.
you start doing other things.
Right.
So if one of us, if you don't know that you're broken, how would
Mhm.
one know? Like, how would I be able to know listening
Yeah.
to you? And I'm going, okay,
That's
well,
the issue.
I hear
Yeah.
all of that. Okay, now she's saying this is healing. If
Mhm.
you go through this might not be healing. If you're saying forget this or I don't care about that or whatever, how would one know,
Mhm.
okay, so I am broken? Because you can go through your day to day
Yeah.
and you can be successful, you can go to work, you can
Mhm.
raise your kids can be well, you thinking everything is lovely.
Mhm.
But in the back of your mind, or even speaking with you, you can find out, hey, well, I
Mhm.
do have all those things going on that she mentioned. So
Right.
am I broken?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. And
So
let
how
me,
would one
yeah. It's
uh
it's a great question, and I want to name the reality because healing is a continuous process. Some of the things
mhm,
people may have worked on, right? So it may not mean I haven't addressed any of my issues, but I continue to be a work
mhm,
in progress, right? So the fact that people
right.
have been able to get through school or hold on to that job or raise those children, we don't want to erase that. That is important. And when we look at, so I would say, not just am I broken or am I healed, but the
Okay.
areas of brokenness and then some areas of my life that have where I'm further along in my healing, right? So they can
Mhm,
coexist. And so, how will I know that there are some areas where the brokenness is still really present? I would say, look at how we treat
mhm.
ourselves, because many times
Okay.
I would say, especially as women, we have often been
Mhm.
raised to caretake other people, right? So you might
Right.
take care of your parents, or you might take care of your children. You might even be a good
Mhm,
friend and a good partner, but
mhm,
neglecting yourself, right? So, how do I
mhm,
treat me is going to say a lot about where I
right.
am on my journey. What do I feed myself, right? Am I, living off of vending machines and drive throughs? What do I give myself? Is it all soda and coffee and no water, right?
Mhm,
Do I move my body? Do I dance or do I walk? Do I
mhm,
protect myself? Do I go to doctor's visits? Do I go to sleep? Right? So,
mhm,
and do I allow people to continue to have access to me who dishonor me? Right? So, that's a good
mhm.
question for me to ask myself. Do I believe I'm worthy and deserving
Okay.
enough to set boundaries, to tell people no? Or do I feel like the people pleasing that I have to say yes to everything because I need them to like me? or can I honor my no?
Right.
Mm.
That's deep because, a lot of times, people say, oftentimes they say, well, they don't care if people like them. But I
Mhm.
think deep down, everybody wants somebody to like them at some point, you
Yes.
know. But I think that people pleasing, sometimes it is over. Some people do it too much. And it's
Mhm.
like, it, now, everything that you just said, down to the vending machines and the soda, I'm like, Lord, Dr. Brian and sat here and just wrote me. I need a prescription right about now because I mean it's so. I mean I can't even explain it. I'm really everything that you have said. So
Mhm.
I follow some of those guidelines, and I didn't
Yeah.
even realize. So it not only will this episode help me, it's going to enlighten and help others too, and that's the purpose of it because it's a lot like mental health and stuff is just real.
That's
But I
right.
wanted to ask you, counseling, do you think that counseling is the only way for someone to be healed?
Right. So, two things. One, I appreciate you starting off with the importance of a middle ground because, as you said, everybody would like some people to like them or, to
Right.
nourish our relationships or our friendships. So, it is also unhealthy when you don't care what anybody cares or thinks and you're just like going around being cruel or mean or isolating yourself.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
but as you said, it's that middle place where I do, I have good friends. Today is my best friend's birthday. So, if there's a challenge that she has, I'm gonna make a sacrifice because I care about her, right? And
Mhm.
the reality is we're actually friends versus
Mhm.
when a stranger can say something and I'm not gonna let that dismantle me because they don't know me, right? Versus if
Mhm.
like every little opinion means the world to me, then I'm in a very fragile place where I don't know
Mhm.
myself. So, yes, some uh, investment in relationship, connection, family, friendship is important, but also not being devastated because everybody doesn't like you. Because no matter what you do,
Right.
there's going to be somebody who doesn't approve. Somebody doesn't like your
That's
outfit.
true.
Somebody doesn't like your hair. Somebody
Right.
doesn't like how you
Right.
talk. So you have to get free. Um, but now, so to your question of counseling, I think that therapy can be very helpful, and it is a unique experience that's different from just talking to a friend. Because some people say, you only need therapy if you don't have friends, and that's just not true. Because
Mhm.
therapy is not like paying a friend. So,
Right.
talking to somebody who is trained and has like the skills and understanding of the skills that can help you to either get through life challenges or to work with like particular issues. So some people, around grief or loss, some people post-traumatic
Mhm.
stress disorder, some people who are dealing with addiction. And so your friend or family member can love you and can be present for you, but doesn't have that same training. Now, that being said, I will also say there are multiple pathways for healing. So, journaling can be
Mhm.
helpful, self help books,
Okay.
the expressive arts. So, I love poetry and dance and music and theater. Talking, within your community or going to a support group. Spiritual practices can be helpful, prayer and meditation.
Mhm.
Um, I think it's important for each person to figure out what is helpful for them in their journey and then not try to dictate somebody else's journey, right? Because some people will say
Right.
something like, well, I exercise, and so you don't need to go to therapy, you just need to exercise. Well,
Right.
exercising can help you relieve some stress. And at the same time,
Mhm.
if people are trying to work through like the fact that their parent abandoned them, getting on that treadmill is not going to do that. So we sometimes make it seem like
So
either or, and sometimes people can make use of multiple pathways.
mm,
Oh, okay. Okay, we have another question from one of our viewers. Can being traumatized and broken help with the decisions that we make as far as like our relationships, parenting,
Mhm.
what to do and what not to do, or how to treat people?
Yes, it's a good point that sometimes we have learned how to be in relationship or how to parent by what we saw. And sometimes we
Okay.
learn because of the opposite, right? So I know some people who are very compassionate parents because they grew up without one, and so they think about, what do I wish my parent had said to me? Let's say if they had a parent where there was never a conversation about sex and they had to go out kind of in the world and figure it out. And so now they're very intentional about, I'm going to talk to my children about their bodies, about good touch and bad touch, about molestation, that if somebody touches them, they can talk to me, or if you're on a date, these are things to do or things not to do. So, some of us figure it out by opposite. The same thing in dating relationships. If you grew up seeing, loving parents, then, you can copy some of the things you saw them do, checking in with each other, being intentional about date night or whatever you saw your parents doing. And let's say you grew up without that. Either you saw intimate partner violence, or you're raised by a single parent who never dated or brought anybody around. And so you learned maybe how to be caring, or some people are making it up from scratch, right? Meaning they don't know what it looks like. Because I'll have clients who don't know what a healthy argument looks like, right? So they are afraid to ever disagree, because what they saw is when people disagree, it turned into physical violence, right? So then they agree with everything because they're afraid, or they're afraid, if I disagree, maybe you'll leave me. So then it's teaching people the skills to practice. You can share what you think. And if you're with someone and you can't share what you think, that may not be the relationship you need to be in.
Right.
That's right.
Right.
That's definitely a red flag there.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't express and share who you are with your whomever you're with, yeah, you're absolutely correct. Now, I wanted to, I listened to what you just said, and you said about a healthy argument. There is a such thing as a healthy argument.
Yes, there is, because we're not.
Figure out how.
So that in a healthy argument, we're debating about the issue. We're not attacking each other, right? So we may have different ideas about, let's say, you all are, it's about money, right? So somebody's a spender and somebody's a saver, right? So you all are debating about should we be spending our money in this way? But it doesn't go into name calling. It doesn't go into cussing each other out. It doesn't go into attacks of, that's why you blah, 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 right? So keep the focus on what is the issue instead of attacking the person.
I'm learning some stuff, and I'm putting them in I'm packing them up and putting them in my pocket. Right. Because I learned you can have a healthy argument, not hitting below the belt. So I get it. I definitely
And I think that's the issue that most people do. Most people hit below the belt because they take the argument and they make it something more than what it was, right? So therefore, what you initially was arguing about is no longer the argument. And then you added other stuff in.
Have added it, and people don't forget that.
Right.
Not at all.
Because once you say it, you can't take it back.
Right. Because they're if you said it, you must feel it. So then it's hard to say, it was the heat of the argument, because people feel like there was some truth in what you said.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely.
So with the book Homecoming, I know in the book you mentioned, in reference to when you was younger, when you was a teenager, you basically, people used to call your house for your father, and he was a pastor himself at the time. And therefore, when they used to call to talk to him, like most of us grew up, when you have an issue, you don't go see a therapist, you don't see a psychiatrist, you don't see a counselor, you don't see any of those people. Your pastor was all of that rolled in one.
Yeah.
So I know you mentioned that when people would call for him for whatever issues they had going on, but by the time you became a teenager yourself, you started listening to some of those people when they was calling in, some of the church members and the people in the community. Do you consider that your whole reason for wanting to be a psychiatrist yourself, and then moving forward throughout your life with all your different titles, but although you had different titles, it all goes back to mental health. It all
Mhm.
circles back to mental health. Do you consider that your only reason, or do you have other little nuggets
Yeah.
that might have motivated you as well?
Yes, it was definitely multiple pieces along the way that guided me into mental health and into psychology. I
Mhm.
growing up, I would have been called, or probably was called sensitive, right? I feel
Okay.
things very deeply, and sometimes as a kid, you can think that's a problem, but it's all about like, what are you built for, right? So I'm not emotionally built to be a lawyer. Like some people like to debate. I don't
Okay.
like it. Right? So, I'm one of those people. If you tell me what's going on with you, even from when I was young, I feel it. Like I
Right.
listen,
Yeah.
and it's just kind of like my personality and my temperament,
Mhm.
and then also life experiences. Because within psychology, my focus is trauma recovery, and so seeing people
Okay.
go through very difficult things, and then also for me. So I grew up primarily in Baltimore. And so while
Mhm.
Baltimore is beautiful culturally, there is also, as I was growing up, a lot of community violence and school violence.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the realities of poverty and racism. So you see the impact of that. For part of high
Mhm.
school, for 2 years, I lived in Liberia, West Africa, which the first year was amazing to go
Oh.
somewhere where like everybody in a position of authority looked like me. It raises your
Right.
confidence to really, like I literally for the first time believed I could be anything I want to be, right? Because I could see it, the
Mhm.
head of the bank, the principal,
Right.
the
Right.
president of the country, everybody. This is like pre-Obama, right? And then,
Mhm.
unfortunately, during the end of my second year there was a civil war broke out, and so my family and
Okay.
I, were evacuated. But that was another trauma of seeing like the impact of war. And then, as in my late teens, during one of my breaks from college, when I had come home from Baltimore, I was sexually
Mhm.
assaulted, and so that also definitely guided me in wanting to help first to heal myself, but then also to help
Right.
other survivors to heal. So all of those
Mhm.
different experiences kind of guided me in this direction.
Wow.
Okay. Okay. So that's what made you so your past history or traumas
Right.
is why you focus more so on the trauma
That's right.
aspect of the mental health. Okay.
That's
Yeah. Because
good
Yeah.
though, because
Mhm.
you could have
Yeah.
not did that. You
Mhm.
could have just healed
Exactly.
yourself and just, like, I don't want to deal with it,
Right.
and just
Right.
left it alone.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's
And
why it's
and that's what a lot
important.
of us do.
I'm sorry. I
Go
was just
ahead.
saying, and that's why it's also important to me to share that, because I think sometimes people
Mhm.
only share when they're in that place of devastation. And so, I
Right.
know when it happened to me, I was looking for like, basically, is my life ruined? Or like, what can my life look like after
Mhm.
this? And if nobody is speaking about it, you assume that everybody who's doing
Mhm.
well has never had that experience. And so that's why it's important for me to say,
Right.
like, as a professor, as an author, as a podcast host, as the president of this association, I'm a survivor. And so that lets other survivors
Right.
know there is life beyond this moment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good too, because then I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about it, and you actually sat there and took my question I had in my head. I was gonna, but what I'm gonna ask you now is, being that you are a survivor,
Mhm.
Mhm,
um, when you talk to someone who have maybe went down a road that you have went down before,
mhm.
do you like how do you mentally process that and deal with it?
Yeah. So it's a gift in the sense of I can be aware of some questions to ask that may not be in the book, but I know because I have lived it. So for
Mhm.
example, if I'm talking to a client, I notice when people are holding their breath. And they often will say, "How'd you know that?" Because I'll say, "You're not breathing." But I know physically what it's like to go through life like this, right? Holding yourself very
Mhm.
tightly. And when you're stressed, holding your breath. And so I notice if people are in that state. And so to say, I invite you to take a breath. Place your hand on your heart or your belly and just tune in to
Right.
your breath, right? And your body. So I'll notice some things that maybe someone who's not a survivor wouldn't notice. And at the same time, it's important for me not to assume we're identical because, people experience things differently. It may be like what their relationship to that person may be different, or like from their family or faith background. So it gives me a level of insight. And at the same time, I'm very clear not to assume that my experience is your experience.
Right. And that was interesting when you said about, girl, are you holding your breath? My answer is yes. I was just holding my breath. I said, oh no, she must have saw that I was holding. Because I was just saying to myself, girl, Bree, why are you holding your breath? And she said it, and that's crazy.
Yeah, no, we do, because when we get on the topic, right? When we get on these topics of trauma, things that are uncomfortable, that's what we do. So you're not the only one. Those who are listening, there's some other folks who were holding their breath too. So we just remind ourselves, breathe, it's okay.
Ooh, that was crazy. Just like, I was like, she see that. So we have another question from one of our viewers. Do you believe in relationships and marriages? Counseling should be done before and together to have a successful relationship?
I definitely recommend premarital counseling because
Okay.
often people are excited about the love, which is wonderful. But, there's more to a relationship than do you love each other? And so there are different topics that people can cover. There's a premarital workbook, a Christian one called Before You Say I Do, but there are other ones that are secular as well for people who are various faith traditions. But some of the topics that it covers is one, faith. You all share a faith. If you have different faiths, how are you, what's your, how are you going to navigate that? There's a chapter called In-Laws versus Outlaws. So some people want to go see their family every weekend, and some people see their family once a year. So how are you all going to work that out? Some people believe they should run all their decisions by their parents because their parents are wise, and some people feel like that's not your parents shouldn't be in our business, right? So you all are going to have to talk about that so we can get on one accord. Conversations about sex and intimacy, because sometimes we're making assumptions of what we think it's going to be like, and if you have not talked about that, you could be up for a rude awakening. Talking about money. Some people are in love and have set a wedding date and have not told each other their debt, have not shared how much money they owe or their credit. So it's not to say necessarily that that's going to cancel things, but you should be informed of what is the financial situation. And then decisions around roles. If we're talking about, a straight couple, there can be these assumptions about what is the man going to do or what is the woman going to do. And I don't dictate to people what that should look like, but you all have to be on the same page because, some couples will say things like, oh, well, he believes men are only supposed to do this, or don't change diapers, or that men don't cook, or whatever that is. You all want to talk about that so you can get clear. And then decision making, right? Are these collective decisions or who gets to decide what? All of these important things. And so instead of waiting until it's a disaster, because some people are like, we're in love, we don't need counseling. If you're planning to take this next step, right? You want to have conversation and even around parenting. People can have very different ideas about how to parent. So you want to discuss those.
That's true. And a lot of times, we don't think about all of that. We just think about we in love and we want to have a big wedding and we want to go here and there.
And then have a big wedding to add to the debt that the other person already have that you didn't know nothing about.
That's
Absolutely.
right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
They have some beautiful pictures.
Sometimes people don't even right. Some people don't even have a simple conversation to let them know how much they make a year.
Right.
That's true.
It's simple things, but like you said, it can ultimately lead to, address these things
Mhm.
before the disaster
Yes.
happens, because
Exactly.
And
all of this,
and
but
also
I think we,
substance use. Some people can be engaged and not
Oh, yeah.
know they've been hiding that they smoke or whatever it is they do, and the person not know it.
Mhm.
that's
So
true.
yeah.
And that's a big one, especially
Mhm.
nowadays.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, because I would be devastated.
Yeah, that's
Like,
too much. So with your book Homecoming,
Mhm.
what do you want your readers to get out of the book? What is it in Homecoming that you want your readers to walk away with?
Mhm. Such a good point. So the first one is what we did at the beginning of this podcast, which is
Mhm.
recognizing the areas in my life that still need healing and connection. So that
Right.
first section is like kind of awareness raising. What are the things, the
Mhm.
signs that I need to pay more attention
Mhm.
to? And then the second section really focuses on strategies and skills to help me on my journey home.
Mhm.
So it's about building confidence. It's about my spiritual
Mhm.
practices. It's about reparenting myself, which is, how I nourish myself, self-care and healthy
Right.
relationships. And then the third section of the book helps you to navigate like those difficult kind of pits on
Mhm.
the journey home to yourself. So one of them is working at a toxic job. And I think all of us have
Okay.
had that experience of
Yes.
when you're at a job
Yes.
that's
yes,
like
ma'am.
killing your spirit, right? So I
Mhm.
divide that chapter in half. So half of it is on if you need to stay at the job, what are the skills to help you? And then if you really need to plan your
Mhm.
departure, let's look at the steps to get you out of
Mhm.
there. And then there's
Right.
another chapter on healing childhood trauma. There's a chapter on healing in the aftermath of relationships. And some people tell me they skip to that chapter because they're in the midst of a breakup. So that's fine. Then you go back and read the read the beginning after that. And then
Right.
dealing with oppression, that like racism and sexism, these things can be
Mhm.
sources of stress and trauma. So needing to heal that as well. So it's a
Mhm.
guidebook that and throughout the book, it has stories of people from all walks of life so we can know we're not alone. All of us are trying to make this journey
Mhm.
and trying to be
Right.
whole
Yes.
and be real.
Right. And when you speak of home, I'm now realizing you're not talking about a physical
Right.
place.
You're talking about
Yes.
You're talking
yourself.
about yourself.
Coming back to
Because I was like,
Mhm.
yourself.
homecoming?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah,
Where are we
okay.
going? It's
Yeah, I was,
coming back to
Mhm.
you
right.
because sometimes in the beginning of the book, I say, can we admit to ourselves, I miss me? That I have
Yeah.
become, I've been living like some other woman. I don't know who this is, right?
Right.
I've been through some
Right.
things. And, I
Right.
appreciate her that she got me here, but I don't want to keep living like
Mhm.
this. I want to get back to me. And I say in the book that for some people, they're making the journey for the first time. Maybe you've never had the safety to be real, to be authentic. And
Right. That's
even for
right.
you, you
Right.
can come back to yourself.
And and then a lot of people don't know who their authentic self really is from the beginning.
Yes.
So they're
Yeah.
thinking that they are living their authentic self life, but they might not be because they don't really know
Right.
their
It's
self.
true. Because you've been doing it, especially if you had childhood trauma, then you develop these
Mhm.
other ways of being very early. So it may be for your whole life, that's how you thought you are, but it's really your wound,
Mhm.
right? So
Mhm.
some people are very harsh and
Mhm.
unloving, not able to express their love. And they say, well, that's just how I am. And it's like, well, maybe
Mhm.
that's how you were raised, but it's not how you have to be, right? I was working with a
Right.
mother and her adult daughter, and the adult daughter
Mhm.
grew up, and their relationship was strained because the mother had dealt with addiction, although now she's clean. But the
Mhm.
adult daughter was
Right.
saying, she really wanted to hear her mother say that she loved her. So as I was talking to the
Mm.
mother about it, the mother's response was, that feels fake. That feels fake. And I said, it's only fake
Mm.
if you don't mean it, right? Do you love your daughter?
Right.
Right.
it was so uncomfortable for her. She just wasn't used to saying it. And there was a lot of pushback. And of course, the more she resisted it, the more the adult daughter was crying, because it was like, how hard is it for you to tell me that you love me? Right. And so
Right.
sometimes out of that, your own pain can keep you in bondage. And so to get free for yourself and for the people you care about.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
And that's a lot to think about right there, because when you put all that in perspective, it's like, that's true. That's all you can really say. It's like, oh, okay. So another question for another one of the viewers. Do you think that it's hard for some of us to heal?
It is, that point I just brought up about childhood trauma. It's like the longer it's been, the harder it can be to get
Harder
back
it
to
is.
yourself, right? If you were in a relatively safe and affirming environment and family, and then let's say one thing happened when you were 22, that's a different healing journey than someone who
Right.
never remembers feeling safe, who has never felt anybody cared about them, has always felt like they were on their own. It's still possible, but it's a
Right.
deeper work that has to be done when you have never been affirmed.
Wow. I'm sitting here like,
I feel like I'm getting cancer.
I do. I feel like I need to lay down on the couch because I'm sitting,
Lay
but I feel
down.
like I need to lay down,
Yes.
and just let Dr. Bryant do her thing. Like,
Right.
just help me. Just help me
Yes.
however I can. But
See,
go ahead.
let me.
Judah.
Have you ever had a client come into your office and they want to talk, but back to that, it's tough. Sometimes it's hard for some people to heal where they
Right.
want to talk, but they don't feel safe, like you was mentioning. So they might just lay there and they close their eyes to talk to you, and then you can like just ask them what you want, and then they talk to you, but they talk to you the whole time with their eyes
Yes.
closed.
Yes,
Because that might
absolutely.
be their comfort.
Right. And
Okay.
so, we do what makes us comfortable. So some people, um, when they come in, they have like their legs crossed, their arms crossed, their purse in their lap, coat all buttoned up, and they're smirking. And that doesn't bother me at all, because I don't take it personally. When I see
Right.
that, I know that this person has had a life, and so I'm
Yeah.
going to have to earn it, right? I'm going to have to earn the trust. Some people come in as soon as you close the door, they're like, they're ready to talk, right?
They just run it
And
off.
yeah, they came ready. They have a list of what they want to talk about. But for some
Right.
people, it's unpeeling. And so just being patient and being present and meeting people where they are and saying, I get it. You don't know me.
Yeah.
So it makes sense.
Yeah.
And then, some people will start off like, kind of, it may feel like it's a distraction, but we're going somewhere. Meaning some people will come in and start talking about a TV show, or they'll talk about something that their cousin said, but we're making our way back to them. And as you named, some people do like to lay down. Some people want to close their eyes or stare into space. Before the pandemic, where my office is, it's a nice view. And so some people will just go and look out the window and, until they feel, as you were
Yeah.
describing, more safe.
Yeah. That's how it was when I first went to see my therapist. How you just described, I was sitting like that. I had my legs crossed. I had my hands like this, and I had my purse right beside me. And I'm sitting there like, okay, what we about to do? But by the time we left, I was like, can I just lay down on the couch? Because I
Yes.
was sitting so still, my back was starting to hurt. I was like, can I just lay down on the couch? And then she was
Yeah.
like, okay, we finished now. We finished, because like you said, sometimes you had to peel back, you had to say little things, and I guess she was doing all those techniques as well, saying
Yeah.
little stuff to make me say, okay, now I can talk and breathe. Because I was like,
Yes.
I won't
Yes.
breathe, about to pass out, everything, looking at my watch. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that makes sense. So it's good to know when you're not the only one.
You're
Like I
not.
wasn't
And that's
being
why
weird,
I'm
which
so
I was
glad.
like, this girl is crazy.
Yeah, I'm glad you shared that. so that other people will know, like, because some people are thinking like, I don't know if I could do it, or I'm nervous to go. And to know you get to set the pace. I'll pick up on things. So if I ask a question, but if the client says, I'm not ready to talk about that, or I don't want to talk about that, then okay. So you're not going to totally be out of control. It's a process that you do together, right?
Wow. Now, is it healthy to cut off parents, like who wouldn't cause you to always be broken because of a void? That's one of the questions that one of the young ladies asked. Is it
Yeah.
healthy to cut off parents?
I would
And when you
say,
feel always feel broken?
right. I would say it depends on what the parent is doing, right? And for each person, it's important for them not to let anybody else tell them how they must be, because some people have that whole piece of, and I get that, the honor your parents, but I will say some parents you have to honor from a distance, right? Because they're dangerous.
Right. I agree.
Right? Some people have
Yeah.
very unhealthy parents who are physically, emotionally, sexually, financially trying to destroy them. And so, for your own safety and that of your children, sometimes you have to take space. But for those who are trying to stay in relationship with parents, maybe who have done harmful things, one is important to look at, is the hurtful behavior solely in the past, or are they continuing to do it, right? So maybe they weren't the best parent growing up, and now you're grown and they're not actively doing anything now. So then you can decide how you want that relationship to be. And then I would say for some people, whether by culture or religion or whatever, you don't believe that it's right or that you can cut them off, then I would just say managing the time, meaning not to give them your whole holiday, right? If they break my spirit, do I really need to spend all of my Christmas break and Thanksgiving break at their house with them, like kind of dumping on me? Or do I say, okay, I'm going to go from like this time to this time. I'm going to bring a dessert, then I'm going to be ready to go. So you figure that out. And then I will say, when you have toxic or unhealthy family life, to also emotionally prepare yourself so that we're not shocked when people do what they always do. So for example, if you have an aunt or a parent who's always going to make comments about your weight, right? That's what they do every year. So I'm not going to let you emotionally dismantle me every year like I'm stunned because you're doing what you always do, right? So then I have to have in my mind my clarity, that's out of your own stuff and your own brokenness. And these comments aren't the truth of my beauty, my worth, my health, my anything. So, you just want to get your strategies together if you're going to continue to interact with them, and if you're going to take space to not get into a whole bunch of debates about it, because ultimately you have to figure out what's healthy for you.
Right. Wow, Dr. Bryant, I know I have enjoyed talking with you. I know you've already.
I was almost laying on the couch.
You all have the wonderful questions. I love it.
Yeah. So and I'm sitting here thinking about it. It a lot does resonate with me, and it's like, so I have to write some things down and journal some things and figure out what move I'm going to make, because some things have really resonated with me, honestly.
Right.
Good.
So that's something that I'm gonna have to take care of ASAP.
Yes,
because I'm one that just dealing with everyday life and it's feeling like if things go sour, you just got to pick it up and just keep moving. But I'm learning that you have to stop and address some things, because you're only just moving things over for the moment.
That's right.
That's true.
Miss Go Getter, what'd you take away from tonight?
I just told you, I feel like I was about to lay on the couch, honey. I took away a lot. Like I don't know, I feel like she was really counseling me. I don't know. She might have been counseling everybody, but I know she was counseling me.
She was talking to you.
Yeah. Yeah, she was really talking to me. So I'm going to encourage everyone to go to Amazon and get that book.
Barnes and Noble.
Barnes and Noble. Wherever you can buy your book, go get the book Homecoming. Yeah. Because you really touched me today. And but there was another question. I have one more question. When you're looking for a therapist, because I know a lot of us don't, and I know I have spoken to people before about, going to get a therapist and all of that. Do you think that they need to do a trial with different therapists so they get that right one? That one that fits them or makes them feel comfortable?
Yeah. So I would
Is
say
that
for
a
everybody
major
to
thing?
know, for everybody to know that first session is to see if you're a match. And so it's okay to shop around. If you go meet with them and you feel good, you don't need to go shop around. It's like it's
Right.
like trying on the dress. That this is the right dress, then I'm good.
Right.
But if you feel not just that you're nervous about what you're going to talk about, but it just feels like it's not a match with this person, to know that therapists are different. We have different styles, different personalities. Because some people have one bad experience and say therapy's not for me. And it may just be that wasn't the right therapist for you. And so you want to try to reflect on, if I can put my finger on it, like what was it about the interaction I didn't like? Because that will help me to know going forward kind of what I'm looking for. Because, there are therapists that are very much give you a handout and teach you skills. There are therapists that are more quiet and will let you do most of the talking and then reflect on what you said. There are therapists that will use the expressive arts. There are therapists who are tuned in to talking about racism. And so, listening for, what you desire in that moment. And you can, if you can figure out what it is at first, if it's not a match, you can give them the feedback to say, I was hoping more, blah, blah, blah. And then they can either tell you, oh, that's a different orientation or style. I don't do that. Or they could say, oh, okay, we can go in that direction. But to know you're empowered, that one meeting doesn't mean you have to stay with that person.
Right. Okay. Well, I've learned a lot. I learned a lot. I feel like I need to go get on Dr. Bryant's couch.
So you're gonna go to California?
We can do a Zoom, whatever. I can lay on my couch. You just talk whichever way is convenient.
And I think it's when you said about different personalities and different techniques, that is true, because even listening to her speak, she has a subtle tone.
She makes you feel comfortable.
She makes you feel comfortable to lay, I mean, I guess that's part of being a minister too. I mean, it all rolls into one for me.
Oh yeah.
She just has that. Exactly.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, I can tell her my whole life story. And don't feel no type of way when I leave there.
Exactly. Be like, okay, I'll talk to you later on. Yeah. Don't have to walk around, put your hood on.
I'll see you next week. I'll see you next week.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, we ask all of our guests, normally we have guests in the studio mostly, but a couple times we do it via StreamYard. We ask all of our guests how their time has been with us since they've been on Wait a Gam Minute podcast.
Yes, this has felt like a homecoming in the sense of being really comfortable with you both. I appreciate your transparency, your honesty. And I think, because you show up so fully as yourselves, that I'm sure that connects with the listeners so they can be honest in their processing. And I love you all's self-reflection, to be able to say, I need to journal and make some decisions. Or to say, I need to go lay down and pay attention to my breath. That's the important part. Because sometimes people have an inspirational moment and then just go back to business as usual. And instead you want to think about, okay, if this was something important, how do I want to shift as a result of what I heard? And so I just really appreciate both of you for that. And I will be encouraging others to follow Wait a Gam Minute.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I have one more question before I go because before you go, actually, being that you you do so much,
Mhm.
how do you balance all of that?
Yes. So I have a wonderful, wonderful circle. I have a sisterhood circle called The Gathering, a
Okay.
group of women that meet up once a month. And it's one of those things like iron sharpens iron. We really like feed off of each other, and it's like nourishing
Okay.
and encouraging. I also love dancing. So I tell people to check out on YouTube something called Kukuwa, which is African dance aerobics. It's a mother-daughter team. They're hilarious and they're
Okay.
warm. I don't know them personally, but I feel like I do. I
Right.
discovered them in the
Mhm.
pandemic. And so those are really fun for me. And then in the mornings, I start my day with like a devotional. So like reading, prayer, meditation helps to like guide me through the day. So those are some of the things that keep me balanced.
Okay, I'm gonna have
Okay.
to check out that cuckoo wall.
Yes, it's
So that's the
fun.
dance African aerobics.
Yes, you will love it.
Okay.
Well, we definitely appreciate you. We wish I know that good things are in store, going to continue to come your way, and I know you're on your book tour. So, and
Thank
I'm
you for
just
stopping by here.
yes.
But before we go, one last thing. Can you please tell the listeners one more time, for those who joined late, the name of your podcast and your book?
Absolutely.
Right.
So the Homecoming podcast is on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube. And the book is Homecoming: Overcome Fear and Trauma to Reclaim Your Whole Authentic Self. But if you just go on the bookstore and
I
search
love that.
Homecoming, last name Bryant, it will come up with the orange cover.
Orange cover.
Yep.
Yep.
I love that name. I love that
I do
title.
too. I
It's
do
like,
too.
oh, well,
I
okay.
do too. Well, Dr. Brian, we have held you, so we don't want to hold you up any longer. But again, we definitely appreciate you. We are honored that you took the time to speak with us and our listeners and viewers. And I know when they go back and listen to it, they are going to be inspired, and hopefully something will resonate with them as well.
Right.
And actually get them to moving, resonate. Okay, cool. But actually put action behind it is something different.
Exactly.
So we're hoping that that takes place and everybody will have a homecoming whenever that homecoming is for them. So again, we are honored and
Right.
we definitely appreciate you stopping by. Wait again a minute.
We do.
Oh, thank you so much. Many blessings to you and to your audience.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much.
You have a good night.
Good night.
Bye bye.
Good night.